Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. It's good to be with you. It's already what I want to make sure that I'm not 13 minutes. So I want to make sure that you use your time wisely here, and I use your time wisely. Few things. Number one, I'm sure you know that it is impossible to cover any religion in an hour, 2 or 3, or even 100 hours. Any religion, whether Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, you name it. My job is more difficult because of the so many misconceptions that you may have or do exist about Islam that I will try to discuss. Number 3, I want you to be honest in the questions and answers session. I really believe that this is about dialogue. It's about engaging with one another with full honesty, without apologizing for anything, being articulate, being open, transparent. And the last thing, I want you to know that whether today or any other time, I'm in the area. I don't live on the moon, I promise you. I am not coming from California or Seattle or Washington State. I'm in the neighborhood. So I would be happy to have you over or have me over for lunch or dinner anywhere at your church, synagogue, school, home, Starbucks. I'm not trying to promote Starbucks here by any means. To discuss whatever you think was not honestly discussed today with the time that we have available. I have this PowerPoint presentation that answers some of the questions, and then we will go into the questions and answers. So let's jump into, do we have...
That's IT. We're waiting for them.
So there is no...
Yes, I can.
You can do it from there. Okay. Okay. I'm going to start right there. My friends, every time you meet a Muslim, he will say to you, Assalamu alaikum. That's what you see in Arabic flipping around. It's the Arabic Assalamu alaikum. Not different from Hebrew. Shalom, shalom in Hebrew, or shalom aleichem in Hebrew. When Jews meet, they also say, Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace be with you. I'm sure you have heard that in churches too, whether in a Catholic church or a Protestant church. Peace be with you, and also with you. So nothing unique in that regard. Islam is like other religions in this regard. We start with peace. Peace becomes the greeting of Islam as it is the greeting of Judaism and Christianity. Okay, the word Islam. I want you to look at the linguistic meaning of the word. Remember that Arabic and Hebrew are sister languages. They are Semitic languages. That is to say, they operate in the very same manner. In Hebrew and Arabic, every time you want to understand a word, you trace it back to the root. The root is always made of 3 letters. And it's the 3 letters that mean, that give birth to the meaning of the word. So, red, sha, s, l, m, M. The I is a vowel in Arabic. The A is a vowel. So the root is SLM, red, blue, green. This is also the O, the shalom, is also a vowel in Hebrew. Red, red, blue, blue, green, green. What does shalom mean? It means peace. And therefore, the word Islam linguistically also means peace, in both Arabic and Hebrew. That's what this says here. The word Islam comes from the word Salm, which means peace. However, Islam says that peace is the outcome of embracing God. I know in America we don't like the word submission. It sounds sort of, no one submits to anyone. I know we are sometimes too much, I don't surrender to anyone. Well, in Islam, it says we surrender to God. not out of weakness, but out of power. Very much like a child surrenders to the arms of his mother or her mother. You love your mother, you feel secure with your mother, you feel safe with your mother, you surrender to her arms as your mother embraces you. That's also the meaning of Iman in Arabic, faith. Faith comes from the word that you feel amn, you feel the safety, you feel the security as you embrace God. But as you embrace God, God embraces you. That's what the word Islam means. Peace through embracing God. Now, is that really different from what Judaism teaches? Or what Christianity teaches? Worship God with all of your heart, with all of your mind, with all of your soul. Isn't that what you hear in the church? That is to say, worship God, embrace God spiritually, embrace God intellectually, praise God emotionally, praise God physically. As you embrace God, God embraces you. Worship God with your full totality. Next. Well, this is rather a slide that could take an hour. This is a slide that is sort of the base for what I call Islamic biomedical ethics. Islamic biomedical ethics. What do I mean by that? In the Islamic understanding of the human person is made of four things. Each human being is made of the intellect, of the emotions, of the soul, and of the flesh. Those four components are equally divided in the human person. So if I were to look at the board here, every human being is made of these four things: the soul, the intellect or the mind, the heart or the emotions, and the flesh. Each one of them makes 25%. Islam declares this: for you to have peace in yourself as an individual, two things have to happen. Number one, you have to cater for the needs of each one of those, 25%. So you cannot only care for your mind and overlook your soul. Or you cannot give this 60% and this 10%. So you have to care for your heart, protect it, shield it, nurture it. Protect the emotional side of who you are, your ability to love, for example. Your ability to study, to read. Your ability to think, taking care of your body, taking care of your heart. Now, that's number one. Number two, these things have to interact in a peaceful manner. That is to say, the decisions that your mind makes have to be in line with the emotions of your heart. Otherwise, you end up what? In conflict. An example. I am on the red light. Someone comes into me about to hit me. What do you think would happen? I'm about to lose my temper. I'm about to curse. That's emotions. My mind says, yeah, you are driving an Avalon. He's driving in a Corolla. You can kick him off. Your mind. But immediately you remember the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. Says, no, don't. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Aha. You see where I'm coming from? So your soul is pushing you this way. Is your mind pushing you this way too? Or are they in contradiction? Are you with me? So the way these four components interact is what makes peace in the human person. But as an individual, you have to care for all too. So Islam says, therefore, it is an act of worship to cater for the needs of yourself. So sleeping enough is an act of worship, because you are catering for the needs of the flesh. Interesting. Food is an act of worship. I love Chinese food, by the way. Don't tell anyone. If that's what you like, that's what you like. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. But what about if I'm enjoying it but my neighbor is not? You see where I'm coming from? So all of those back and forth energies between the conflicting realities of yourself but the socio-political context around you. You know what I'm talking about? In the society, what they call the collective sin in philosophy. You struggle. What decision should I make? Cares or not cares? Go to court or not go to court? Smile or not smile? Send the bomb off or not? Let go or not let go? Embrace or not embrace? All of those struggles is what is called, this is bomb number 1 for today's lecture. Sorry, bombs, I know. That's what we call jihad. That's what jihad is, my friends, in Islam. I know, it's not holy war. I challenge anyone. I have been doing this since September 11 on ABC with Peter Jennings. I did it September 11, 2001, 4:15 p.m. on TV. I said, I'll give $10 million to anyone who will find the phrase holy war in the Quran. I said, I don't have $10 million, but I don't have to worry, no one will find it. The word jihad is exactly this. How do you struggle with your mind, with your heart, with the social political circumstances around you to make the best decision? So, picking food up and working with Habitat for Humanity or the homeless shelter in downtown DC is jihad. Holding your anger back when you are able to strike is jihad. I have only $20. I could use them for another IT thing, but I could give them to the poor next door. That's jihad. Because you struggle, what should you do? That's jihad. So Prophet Muhammad, peace be with him, was asked about jihad 93 times. And he answered 93 ways of what jihad is. Number 1 form of jihad in Islam, in the Quran and in the teaching of Prophet Muhammad is, guess what? Exactly what we are doing here. Learning and teaching. So we are all mujahideen. We are all jihadists. You don't need to be Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, or a believer in God to be a jihadist. You struggle to learn. You could be doing all kinds of things tonight, don't you? But you struggle to come here, to drive, to listen to me with an accent. Yeah, I do have a heavy accent, I know. Proud of it. That's what makes America great. Heavy accents. My friends, that's jihad. Learning. What about catering for the needs of your parents? Is one of the 93 forms of jihad. Well, one of the greatest forms of jihad is what women do, what keeps the humanity going. What's that? Pregnancy. Pregnancy. Because through them, listen, women who have been there know exactly what I'm talking about. I wish I could have been a woman once in my life. Only to know what it means to go through the pain of motherhood. So my wife is with me just thinking about the pain she had been through. And those women who have been there. That's jihad. Because you strive, you struggle to carry, to deliver, but also to raise. That's jihad. So this is what peace is according to Islam. Next. So that is peace within yourself as an individual. Now, once you make the peaceful person, you go farther, a bigger circle, the society around you. How do you make peace with God? How do you make peace with your fellow human beings, with fellow Muslims, with fellow creatures, with unseen world? These are part of the Islamic understanding of the world around us. That is to say, I need to make peace with God, embrace God as God embraced me. I need to embrace all of my fellow human beings, regardless of their color of skin, regardless of their nationality, regardless of their religion. Actually, the Quran declares in chapter 49, verse 13, it says, "O humankind, I, God, created you from a single pair of a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes that you may come to know one another." Nations and tribes. So Islam acknowledges in that chapter that God wants us to be different. In another chapter in the Quran it says, if God had wanted, God would have made all of you the same. That is to say, the Quran challenges us to remember that God wants us to be mukhtalifin, to be different. And the Quran says, وَمَا يَزَلُونَ, they will always be different. And it's okay to be different. There's no crime about being different, a black or a brown, or that's the call to prayer. Don't worry, don't worry. No one is coming in, no Osama bin Laden, no terrorists, I promise you. Nothing like that. It's the call to prayer. It's supposed to call us to pray. Okay. Where was I? You see? The differences. So in Islam, we acknowledge that diversity within our human family. Again, a lot of details, no time to address. My fellow Muslims. Islam says if you cannot make peace with your fellow brothers and sisters, you cannot make it with the outside world. So you start with you start with your wife and your children, your father, your mother, then you enlarge the circle, you go out. Your fellow creatures, believe it or not, in Islamic understanding of environmentalism, they call me the fundamentalist environmentalist. Because in Islam, the cat is not a creature that is less than me or more than I. It's a fellow creature. And the Quran declares that every creature glorifies God in its own way. And hence, a creature has to be respected and honored. So I look at my tree and say, Subhanallah, in English, hallelujah. In Islam, glory be to God, how beautiful that cat is. So caring for the needs of the cat and the dog and the tree and the sea and the ocean is an Islamic project, if you will. And I have to make peace with my fellow creatures. The unseen world, like other scriptures, other religions, we acknowledge the existence of a world outside of the human family. In other words, don't be too arrogant to think that you are the only species out there. There are so many other than you, whether you know it or not, including angels. We'll talk about that later. Next. Okay. Monotheism. Islam is one of three monotheistic religions that believe in the one God. Next. Okay, for the sake of time, trust me, there's a lot I could say about each slide. Keep going. We'll go back just a second. As a matter of faith in Islam, we are told to question anything and everything. So questioning is not wrong, it's not immoral, it's not unethical, it's not unreligious. We are told to question. And if you read the life of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, you will see how he had that kind of he would sit back and ask people to ask him. And the Quran, in so many verses, it says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ, they ask you, say, they ask you, say, they ask you, say. It's okay to ask. In other words, in Islam, religion, faith, and reason are not enemies. They have to go hand in hand. And that is what historically gave birth to the science of algebra. When Muslims invented algebra, because they were driven by their faith that asked them to think critically, to think about this universe, to understand God's making in this universe, to ask questions and be innovative. Next. Keep going only for the sake of time. Now, I'm going to only spend like 7 minutes on this and keep going. Articles of faith. To be a Muslim, you believe in specific things, and these are called the articles of faith. Number 1, the belief in the existence of God. Number 2, the existence of a world called angels, prophets, messengers, revelations, and the day of judgment. Keep going. We'll go through them one by one. Keep going. Next one. This is the declaration of faith. To be a Muslim, you say, I'll be a witness that there is no deity but God, and that Muhammad is God's messenger. You say that. It's like bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah for Jews. It's like baptism for Christians. This is the rite of passage into Islam, if you will. To declare that there is only one God and that Muhammad is a messenger of God. Keep that a messenger, which means what? Muhammad is not the only messenger of God. And that Muhammad is not God, is not divine, is not the son of God, is not the uncle of God. Muhammad is a messenger of God. So by doing so, we declare that Muhammad is not to be worshipped. He's a messenger who was meant to deliver God's message to us. Next. The articles of faith, we start with the name of God, Allah. Many people think that Allah is the Muslim God, and you will be shocked in the next slide. Okay. As I told you earlier, Arabic and Hebrew are Semitic languages. These are sister languages. They think alike, they operate alike. Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic. Look carefully at this slide. This is Hebrew. Ilah, Elohino, Elohino, our God, Elohino, Elah, the A, the L, the H sound. Aramaic, the language that most likely Jesus spoke. Ilah, Ilah. Now look at the look here. L, L, A. It's missing this piece, but it's the same. The Ha, the Ha. I know Hebrew and Arabic, so I can go back and forth, okay? Now let's go to Arabic. Ilah, 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 Allah. Arabs love to stress on letters. So the difference, if you take the L out, A-L, A-H, A-L-H, I, but it says Ilah, with the sound, you write it A, Ilah, Ilah, Ilah. Okay? Allah, the very same word. So Allah is not the Muslim God, it's rather the Arabic word of God. And therefore, if you were worshiping in a synagogue in Morocco, or in a Catholic Protestant church in Lebanon or Syria, you would never hear the word God. What would you hear? Allah. Because that's the Arabic word that Jews, Christians, and Muslims use to refer to God. Next, now keep that, before we go, keep this in mind. I want you to keep this in mind, okay, this image, okay? This Allah, the way Arabic writes it. Keep going. Okay. This is the first paragraph in the Christian and Jewish Bible in Genesis. This is Arabic, but the Bible in Arabic. In the beginning, you see, do you remember this? Allah created the heavens and the earth. Number one. Number two, and the earth was sort of destroyed or small and empty. وعلى وجه الغمر, then you have Allah, وروح Allah, and the Spirit of God. وقال Allah, and Allah said, let light be. وفصل الله بين النور والظلم, and Allah separated between light and darkness. وَدَعَ اللَّهُ النُّورَ نَهَارًا, and Allah or God called light day. This is Genesis, this is the Bible, not the Quran. You see? So anyone from now on who tells you that Muslims worship Allah, a different God, don't believe him. This is the very proof that that is not the case. Next. Okay. Article number 2, we believe that God commissioned the human beings from amongst us to speak to us. Those human beings are perfect, are wonderful, moral, and ethical people. Their goal, their mission was to teach us about God, to help us be moral and ethical. Next. Now, those are some of the names of the prophets that Islam believes in that you see in the Quran. Now, Adam, Noah, Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Moses, David. I know this might be what's going on here. Now, keep going. Next slide, and we'll come back to this. This is the family of prophets, the names of prophets that you see in the Bible, but in the Quran as well. Like the blue ones, Jonah, Joseph, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, Aaron, Moses, Elijah, David, Solomon, Zechariah, the Baptist. Okay, now let's go back. Let's go back. Now, Abraham had 2 wives. One was Sarah, according to the Bible, not the Quran. I mean, the Quran too, but it's the Bible too. And Hajar or Hagar. Sarah gave birth to Isaac. Hajar or Hagar gave birth to Ishmael, from whom Muhammad was born. So Ishmael is the grandfather of Muhammad, whose father is Abraham. Okay, Isaac, Moses, David, Jesus. Isn't that true? What does this mean? Actually, Muhammad, a prophecy, is not a strange thing to Christians. In the Bible, God says to Abraham, and I shall make of both of your children great kingdoms. Isn't that true? So what is his children? Isaac and Ishmael. So this is a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. As simple as that. We're not inventing something new. But at the same time, we are claiming that fatherhood of this man, the patriarch of Abraham. So we're not really strangers. We're brothers and sisters of one father. Yes, 2 mothers, but one father. But let's go to Adam. The Hebrew word for Adam is Adam. The Arabic word for Adam is Adam. The English word is Adam. But you know what Adam means in Hebrew? Soil, dust, dust. So in Islam, adim al-ard, the dust of the land. So people ask me, Imam Hindi, where are you from? And I say, I'm from dust. Oh, what's your nationality? I say, I'm Dustonian. Got me, huh? Because I come from the same adim, from the same turab, from the same dust. We're brothers and sisters. Never, ever believe anyone who tells you are less than me or more than me. We're all sisters and brothers, fellow Dustonians of the same Adam and Eve. Please take this from my heart. This is for me one of the most important theological beliefs of Islam, that we come back from this soil. We are not here or here, we're here. I'm not going to walk in the front of you or behind you. I want you to walk by my side. Next. Next. We believe to be Muslims, we believe that God revealed a book called the Torah, believe it or not, in Arabic Torah, the Psalms in Arabic Sahuf, the Gospel in Arabic Injil, and the Quran to those of prophets. So to be Muslim, we believe that God revealed scriptures. So for me, the Torah is not a book I can just throw on the street like that. The Torah represents God for me. Imagine. How often they tell you that Muslims hate the Jews? Really? We hate the Torah. Really? I cannot be a Muslim if I undermine the Torah and what it represents, or the great good news of Jesus and what they represent. Now, I'm going to shock you going back, without going back on the slides. As Muslims, we believe that the Messiah is actually Jesus Christ, son of Mary. The Quran calls him Christ, son of Mary. Christ, al-Masih, Jesus, son of Mary. Muslims believe that Jesus is the Messiah who is coming back at the end of time to establish peace and justice on earth. Imagine. So I always say Muslims and Jews are very close in terms of one important thing: law. Both Jews and Muslims have developed historically a huge body of laws. Christians did not, like Muslims and Jews. They have canon law, but not like what Islam and Judaism has become. However, Islam and Christianity share something Judaism does not, and that is that Jesus is the Messiah. You might be shocked. You needed to be a week ago at our home when one of our daughters is a senior in high school. And for her, why should I go to school? Jesus is coming back. For her, he's giving her hope that he's coming back for peace and justice on earth. That's what Muslims talk about. Don't be surprised. How can we be enemies? Keep going. Keep going. This is the Quran, how it looks in Arabic. Keep going. Angels, we believe that angels are made of light. There's not much time to talk about them. I want to really spend more time talking to you guys. Just ideas. Keep going. There is day of judgment. We believe after death, we will all stand before God for judgment. And God will judge us, number one, based on our faith. Number two, based on our good deeds. It is not enough to say, I believe in God and do evil. But it's not enough to do good and not believe in God. Both have to go hand in hand. But in either way, Islam says what governs these two is God's compassion and mercy. God's grace. It's God's grace along with faith and good deeds that have to go hand in hand. Next. Accountability. So on the day of judgment, we'll stand before God for judgment. I spoke about that earlier. Keep going, because for the sake of time. These are some attributes. Go back. God's attributes in Islam. We refer to God by the merciful, the compassionate, the forgiving, the loving, and so on. Keep going. Keep going only for the sake of time. For the sake of time. Keep going. Keep going. I told you about this, that in Islam, every good act is an act of worship. Literally. Embracing your son before he goes to sleep is an act of worship. It's a prayer. Cooking for your family is an act of worship. Taking care of your neighbor is an act of worship. However, we also need to pray. We all need, and therefore Islam promotes the idea of praying at least 5 times a day. You can pray as many times as you want. Zakah is when you share a portion of your income with the poor. Fasting in the month of Ramadan. Pilgrimage is when you visit Mecca once in your lifetime. Each one of these points could take an hour, but there is no time really to do it. Keep going. Keep going. Again, this is what we do before we pray. We do something called ablution. We wash in a specific way. We wash our feet. We wash our mouths. We wipe our heads. We wash our ears. We wash our feet. Why? To stand before God, you have to remember that you need to acknowledge your mistakes and be courageous enough to acknowledge your mistakes. But before you do that, you need to wipe off those mistakes that you have done in the last few hours. How do you sin? You sin with your mouth, yeah? By saying something wrong. You sin with your hand by hitting someone. You sin with your ear by hearing something you're not supposed to hear. You sin with your head by thinking evil. You sin with your feet by going somewhere you're not supposed to go. And that's what we wash before we go to prayer. To say to God, I know I have sinned, I know I have done wrong. Here's my confession between me and you. I'm going to come into your divine presence. Please forgive me. Keep going. The adhan, the call to prayer is what you just heard. Now you have iPhones. You can download on your iPhones an app called Adhan, A-T-H-A-N, what you see there. And 5 times a day at 4 o'clock a.m. Allah, what? Yeah. For me, it's an amazing way of saying, Yahya, drop everything. Drop everything. Take a moment to relax. Take a moment to relax. Of course, we always have time. It's not like 4:15, 4:15. You have like 4:15 maybe to 6 o'clock, or you have 8 to 9. But don't say, well, I'm going to pray tomorrow. God continues to be with you. You need to continue to be with God. But the prayer is also a moment for you to relax. How often they tell you at jobs, every hour and a half, stretch yourself. Leave your office. Go and have coffee. Take a walk. Isn't that true? That's exactly what the prayer does 5 times a day. Take a moment away from your routine to relax, change whatever you have been doing, get yourself into a new mood, a positive mood. Next. This is the 5 daily prayers in the morning. God, help me keep going. God, I have been doing well, but I may have failed. Help me keep going as best as I could. Afternoon, God, I'm about to lose it. Please stay with me. God, it's now almost night. I really snapped a few times. I cursed. Please help me not keep doing that. God, I know I messed up, but I also know I did good. So acknowledging that you need someone to hold you, someone to push you, someone to pull you, someone to embrace you. Keep going. These are the positions of the 5 daily prayers. I'm going to demonstrate that with maybe some of you who want to do it later to see exactly what it entails. At the end of the prayer here, we look to the right and say, peace be with you. We look to the left and say, peace be with you. While in this position, we say, glory be to God, the highest and the highest. In here, we say, glory be to God, the greatest. God is the greatest. We pray for our parents in these positions, and we glorify God. Next. For me, a prayer helps me embrace that I need to embrace others. When we pray, come with me, brother Duran, let me practice on you. Professor Durrani teaches here. I want to practice on him. So before I pray, I tell him foot to foot and shoulder to shoulder. That is to say, don't allow anything between me and you. We're brothers. And he cannot just walk away. Throughout the prayer, he has to stand next to me. Meaning, we are together. Okay? We are together. You are not another. Whether you are prostrating or bowing down, you are together. Well, at the end of the prayer, peace be with you. Peace be with you. I make peace with those who are on my extreme right, and I make peace with those who are on my extreme left. What does this mean? We don't all need to be the same. How do I demonstrate 5 times a day, that we can be different, yet we can stand next to one another, and we can have peace with one another? Thank you. But also in the prayer, you put your forehead on the floor, on dust, to remind yourself you come from dust, to dust you shall be returned. Don't be arrogant about the tie you have. It's nothing. About the watch you use or the car you drive. At the end of the day, you're coming from dust, to dust you shall be returned. We're all brothers and sisters. This is what I mean. But throughout the prayer, I listen to God, and God listens to me. And we say, Sami Allah, God listens, God hears. And you say, wait a minute, God in His glory hears me? Yes. If God hears me, why don't I hear my spouse? Why don't I hear my child and my neighbor? If God hears the King of all kings, why not I and you? So throughout the prayer, we demonstrate how we have to listen and hear one another. One of my favorite Jewish prayers is Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Listen, O Israel, O Jacob, God is one. God is one. Listen, God is telling Jacob, listen, just hold your tongue, don't keep talking, and listen to God speaking to you. How often do we do that? Next. Okay, again, this is moral implications of prayers. That the idea, I'm not here to knock you down or for you to knock me down. We're here to stand next to one another. Next. Again, in the prayer, we remember that at the end of the day, I'm going to come back to dust. And the money I have, God entrusted me with it. And it's about the poor and the needy. So one of the 6 articles of faith, one of the 5 pillars of Islam is that you do what? 2.5% of your annual saving, you give it to the poor. This is not your money, it's God's money, it's the money of the poor. It's not about how much money you have, it's how and what you do with it. Next. This is what I was talking about, zakah. You give money away. Keep going, only for the sake of time, keep going. Keep going, this is Hajj, okay. This is the sacred house in the city of Mecca in the Arabian Peninsula. 3 to 4 million people go every year from all around the world, men and women standing next to one another. Absolutely no separation between men and women. They stand with one another, for each other, all glorifying God. We believe that this house was built by Abraham and his son Ishmael. Next. Millions of people. This is big, by the way. Go back. This is as big as this building, by the way, the Science Center. It looks small. If you want to walk here, if you want to walk with this business, it could take what? Did you do it? About half an hour? It could take half an hour just walking one time. And it's 1 floor, 1, 2, 3, 4 floors. And it's a huge place, an amazing place to be with people. This is what changed Malcolm X. Malcolm X in the 60s, for those of you who don't know, was a nationalist. We're not going to go into Malcolm X and his history. But he felt in his mind, in his heart, there must be something else in humanity that brings us together. Being there, seeing Muslims, black and white and brown, rich and poor, men and women, standing with one another with absolutely no class distinction, transformed his mind and heart. He came back saying, we're all in this together, we're fully united. Keep going. Oh my God, I wish. What's the time? Listen, I'm going to stop here. This is a lot of stuff that could take us hours. Maybe this one, okay, this one. I finished with the articles of faith and the pillars of Islam. Now, you could say, Imam Hindi, you are telling us that Islam is all about peace and love, and yes and no. What do I mean by that? Islam is about peace and love. Muslims are not all about peace and love. Islam is the religion, and Muslims are the people. Like you have Catholicism and Catholics, 2 different things. Protestantism and Protestants. Judaism and Jews. Not every Jew practices Judaism. Not every Christian practices Christianity. Not every Muslim practices Islam. We have violent people amongst us, without any doubt. That's number one. Number two, so does Islam say that one has to be pacifist? No, I'm not really claiming that. Islam says that people have the right to self-defense. No doubt about it. In the Quran it says, only fight only those who fight you, and do not transgress, for God loves not transgressors. So Islam says, yes, you have the right to fight in self-defense, but only those who fight you, meaning only those who undermine you, only those who carry arms against you, you can carry arms against them. This is sort of the simplistic way of talking about it. But throughout the last 1400 years, Muslims developed a full body of literature on the ethics of war, similar to what the Christians and Jews call the just war theory. So yes, Muslims developed a just war theory. What is just, what is not just, what is defensive, what is offensive, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. These are believed to be the most common rules of fighting and the most basic ones that you'll find in Islamic war ethics books. Never injure prisoners of war. So if you have the right to self-defense, you only do that against what? Combatants. You cannot undermine civilians whatsoever. Period. Even in self-defense. Number two, never kill animals. In the midst of a crossfire, that the crossfiring cannot undermine animals. Interesting. Not only that, not even the land. You know what I say with this kind of theology? According to Islam, nuclear bombs are illegal, unreligious, and unethical. because they don't discriminate between men and women, human, animals, and crops. In the way we do modern war, is very unethical, according to Islam. Because not a combatant to combatant, you are sitting in the basement of someone's building with a button, you undermine 1 million, 2 million, or 20 million people. Indiscriminate killing of civilians or undermining of creatures other than human beings or the land that God made is considered unethical, and therefore will constitute that war, will make that war be unethical, un-Islamic, and we would not stand for in any way, shape, and form. What does this make Osama bin Laden? What does this make the terrorists and ISIS? You don't need me to tell you ISIS does not represent Islam. This is the theory of Islam that speaks for Islam. ISIS, Taliban, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram do not in any way, shape, and form speak for Islam or the teaching of Islam. This is orthodoxy as written 1,000 years ago. Never mutilate bodies of enemies, dead or alive. So seeing ISIS, oh my God, the chopping heads of people and the burning and the cutting them, and they call that Islam? Really? Really? Phew. Nothing makes my blood boil more than that. It's done in my name, in the name of this beautiful religion. All the prisoners should be given fair treatment. Women and children protected from harm. Always bury all the dead with full respect. If you follow these rules, my friend, that's exactly what Geneva Convention in 1407, I think, decided, or many years ago, Geneva Convention on the War of Ethics. Islam declared it 1,400 years ago. Keep going. Now, I'll finish with Sharia and have questions and answers. Sharia. Because you hear this, the word Sharia has become, oh my God, Muslims are gonna come here and take over with Sharia. Okay, Sharia. Sharia comes from the Arabic word Sharia, which means road. It means path. Very much like the word halakha. Do you have any Jewish brother or sister here, any Jewish friend? At least one? I want someone to help me. No, okay. Halakha is the Hebrew Jewish word for law, which means road, the path. So, as in Judaism, in order to be closer to God, you need to live the law. In Islam, in order to be closer to God, you need to live the law. That's what the word Sharia really means. That's number one. Number two, keep going. Sharia has rules, very specific rules, starting with what's called the objectives of Sharia, sort of maqasid al-Sharia in Islam. For anything to be Sharia and called Sharia, it has to honor these 5 rules: safeguarding faith, safeguarding life, safeguarding mind, safeguarding honor and property. That is to say, Sharia gives people the right to faith, freedom of religion. That's what Sharia teaches, my friend. Islam wants me, Sharia wants me, if you're a Christian, to make sure that you live as a Christian. That's what Sharia says. And don't believe anything else. Freedom of religious expression and faith by all people. And the Quran says word by word, let whoever wants to believe, believe, and whoever does not want to believe, not believe. Want me to shock you? In the Quran it says, to those who don't even believe in God, it says, lakum dinukum waliyadin. Islam acknowledges that atheism could be a religion that should be respected and a way of life that should be respected. I disagree with it, but I have to respect it. That's what Sharia teaches. Not kill infidels, the Jews and the Christians and what they tell you. This is references from the Quran. Safeguard the life of every human being regardless of faith, ethnicity. Safeguard people's right to study and learn, men and women. the dignity of all people and people's right to accumulate wealth. Doesn't this look like the Bill of Rights for Americans? My friends? Read a book called What is Right with Islam, in which the author talks about a comparison between the Bill of Rights and these 5 objectives to discover that Islam is not what people say Islam is. Next. Sharia talks about these principles. All of these verses are from the Quran. So it's not something I'm making up. Universal brotherhood and sisterhood, no forced conversion from any religion to any religion, peaceful coexistence, acceptance of plurality, specially place for Jews and Christians without any doubt in Islam, and interfaith dialogue. Next. Keep going, only for the sake of time. Keep going, just keep going, keep going, keep going. Specific values that Islam teaches. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. I wish there was time. Keep going. I could send you this, or I give it to someone here. It can be made available. For Islam, sustainable civilization stand on the following principles: moderation and balance, justice, accountability, rule of law, equality and or equity, politics of justice, economics of equity, and covenant of community. All are derived from Sharia teachings. Next. Next. I wish there was time. I spoke about jihad, learning, pregnancy, prayer, feeding the hungry, charity giving, all forms of jihad. Yes. We spoke about this. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Maybe this is some like Islamic art, Islamic art from mosques. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I took this myself, by the way, from Turkey. This is Pakistan, Istanbul. I did not take this mine. This is a picture, a painting in Rome, Italy. This is in Bahrain. Keep going. This is in Iran. Keep going. Suggested books to read. You have that in the handouts, by the way. There are so many books I advise you to read, and it will be good for you guys to read. Thank you. I know time is too much, and there's food a lot, and some people want to pray. Let's, for 15 minutes, focus on the questions and answers. Be honest, to the point. Let's see. Any question, don't be shy. Yes. Yes.
Okay, my name is Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah, my question is regarding the Sharia.
Sharia.
Way, especially the Boko Haram, the situation in northern Nigeria.
Yes.
The way they try to portray this Sharia over there is the opposite of what you just showed. What is bringing that to people's minds?
Thank you for one of the most important questions anyone could ask. Because when people see me, say, Imam, this is good. But what about Boko Haram in Nigeria? Yeah. What about Taliban in Afghanistan or Pakistan? What about ISIS or depriving women from driving or from education, like in the case of Nigeria? Now, this is what I would say. Number one of the problems that Muslims have to face, and have for so much now in the last 100 years, is we are run by self-proclaimed imams who have not studied this stuff. That's number one. Number two, governments that use religion for their own political agendas and twist it around in whatever fashion to keep them in power. And there's so many cases one could mention that would define exactly that. I mean, the conflict between Buddhists and Muslims in South Thailand. I went to South Thailand, and it sat with both sides, the Buddhist monks and the imams. They're both angry with each other and with oneself of why that's happening. After so many visits to Thailand, it's the politicians who are paying them money and giving them arms to keep them in power. Again, they use religion. Number three, some people are just ignorant of what I'm talking about. So when I say these things, they cannot believe it. Really? Is that what Islam really is? I'm talking about Muslims. So we believe in what I call an age of ignorance by Muslims themselves about their own faith and what their faith teaches. Mention one example, the issue of women. Again, the issue in the case of Nigeria or Afghanistan. Does Islam really say that women, does Sharia say that women have to stay at home and do nothing? Really? Let's talk about it. Number one, Prophet Muhammad, peace be with him, himself said, acquiring knowledge is an obligation upon every female and male. He said female and male. So it's not Sharia, it's not the religion. The Quran says, believing men and women are the protectors of one another on equal footing. Number three, the Prophet's wife Khadija was a businesswoman. After Khadija died, he married someone with the name of Aisha, who became what I would call in modern terminology the first Muslim theologian in the history of Islam. Became the theologian, became the legal scholar, the interpreter of the Quran, a woman. I'm going to shock you. When you go home, go online and type in the 1001 Inventions, a book with a documentary you can buy. Within the 1001 Inventions, they talk about the first university that ever existed in human history, that's still in existence. The unique thing about that university, Al-Qarawiyyin University in Fas, Morocco, founded in the year 839 by a woman who became the president of that university in the heartland of Islam, a woman with the name of Fatima. Another university founded in 1069, Al-Azhar University in Egypt, founded by a woman 1,000 years ago, who was the president of that university. Shifa bint Ubaidillah, a very well-known Muslim female at the time of the Prophet and after the Prophet, was what you would call in modern political terminology the first Secretary of Commerce in the Islamic Empire, a woman in charge of the market and the commerce of the empire, a woman, Shifa bint Ubaid. We know her history. Well, let's go back a little bit. As we speak, maybe this is history. A few weeks ago, was elected as the first female president of Singapore, a woman with hijab like my wife, of a country made of Hindus and Buddhists and Christians and Muslims. A woman, very orthodox Muslim woman, the first female president of that country. Very proud of her faith. The president of Kosovo, the first female president in the Balkan countries in that part of Europe, with Muslims and non-Muslim countries, a Muslim woman. Benazir Bhutto, the former prime minister of Pakistan, the prime minister of Bangladesh or Indonesia, of Bangladesh is a woman as we speak. So there are more in Pakistan. I have a lot of criticism of Pakistan politics, but we have to tell the truth. The truth is 33% of the parliament members of Pakistan are women. What's the makeup of women in the US Congress? Let's do the studies. What I'm telling you, sometimes we are blind on what is really happening and we don't see the whole truth. Women not driving in Saudi Arabia is not an issue of Islam. My wife drives, my daughters drive, my sister in Palestine drives, we're Muslim women drive in Pakistan, in Egypt, in Syria, and everywhere, but Saudi Arabia. Why? That's the law of the government of Saudi Arabia, not of Islam. Islam in no place says women cannot drive.
They're going to be able to start driving in 10 months or so.
Actually, they started today. I saw some pictures on YouTube.
Oh, I thought they had to wait 10 months.
They're breaking the law. Let's do it now. You know. So, so it's not the law. It's not Islam. So it's the law of the country. Don't throw that at Islam as if it is the issue of Islam. So that's my answer to you. When you hear these kinds of interpretations of kill the Christians or the Jews or we are supposed to take over the world and only make people, you have based on those principles say these are not educated Muslims, or they are, but they have their own political agenda for whatever it is. The violence that's happening in Iraq, do you think it's about Islam, Shia, and Sunnism? Shias and Sunnis lived in Iraq for 1,400 years. Why have they lived together and married from one another and prayed together in the same mosque for 1,400 years, but not now? It's a struggle created by all kinds of international powers on who's going to have more control on all resources. It's access to all resources. What they call it, what happened in Kurdistan just a few days ago on that whole political issue, should Kurdistan separate or not separate from Iraq? Is it about religion? They want access to their own independence and have access to resources. It's exactly that. That's one question. Other questions? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Michael Herdoiza, Montgomery College, class of 2007. And I have two questions. The first one's a verification question. The first question is, the Prophet Muhammad ascended into heaven,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And then the second question is...
Well, I have to say something about that, but keep going, yeah.
The next question I have is, do Muslims have a, like, chapter by chapter story of how that took place, or is it more of a take it on faith kind of thing?
Okay. About the story of ascension to heavens. Muslims believe that the prophets of God are human beings, not divine. Whether it's David or Solomon or Jacob or Moses or Jesus. They're not divine. But at the same time, they're not like you and me. They are perfect, sinless human beings. So they are not like you, they are like me and you, but they worked on themselves, but also the grace of God made them become perfect. But that does not make them divine. They continue to be human beings. Now, every one of them was given a miracle. Jesus was given the miracle according to Islam of healing the blind. God gave him the ability to heal the blind. Moses was given the ability to turn the water into land and other miracles. Muhammad was given a miracle such as the miracle of ascension to heaven, meaning at one point God took him up to heavens, showed him heavens, and brought him back to earth again in what we call as Muslims the night journey, the night journey. As to your second question about the stories, the Quran is equal in size to the New Testament, made of 114 chapters, not equal in size. The shortest chapter is, you'll be shocked, the shortest chapter of the Quran is this. Okay? The longest chapter is all of this. Okay? So they're not equal in size. Number two, the chapters are divided based on themes, not stories. So every chapter, like a book, like any book you read in America, it has chapters and themes within each chapter that contribute to the main theme of the book. That's what the Quran is. So every chapter has its own theme. Number three, there are stories in the Quran. However, the stories are scattered all over the 114th chapter based on the theme of the chapter. With the exception of few stories, such as the story of Joseph. The story of Joseph in the Quran is all in one chapter called Joseph. Number five, 2/3 of the Quran is stories. And 2/3 of the stories is the story of Moses and Jesus. Yes. So if you take the story of the Israelites and the story of Jesus and Mary in the Quran will be not more than 10% or 15% of what you have now. Having said so, I say the Quran has a chapter named after Mary. Chapter 19 has a chapter named Ibrahim, after Abraham. Has a chapter named, I said Mary. Actually, Mary is mentioned in the Quran more than she's mentioned in the Bible. Mary is mentioned in the Bible 17 times, in the Quran 34 times. Jesus is mentioned in the Quran 94 times, more than Muhammad is mentioned in the Quran. Yes, don't be surprised. Jesus is mentioned in the following ways. Jesus, son of Mary; the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary; the Son of God, the Spirit of God; and the Messiah. Jesus, I always say to Christians this, for sure, Mary is more important in Islam than in Protestantism. No doubt. In the Protestant theology or narrative, Mary is not as important. Muslims compete with Catholicism on who Mary is and is not and her role, without any doubt. And Mary plays this important role in Islamic theology, Islamic spirituality, Islamic ethics, Islamic morality, to make her become most likely one of the greatest women in history. Enough for some theologians to call her the only female prophet history has ever known. Now, as we speak, this is the month of Muharram, the first month in the Islamic calendar, in the year 1439. And on Saturday, in 2 days from now, 3 days from now, I'm getting old. Am I old? Come on, honey. You know I'm young. You know, yeah? Don't tell anyone, yeah? Okay. On Saturday, Muslims will be fasting all over the world and will break their fast at sunset to thank God to have saved the Jews from the slavery of Egypt, in what Jews would call Passover. We call it Ashura, from the word Eser in Hebrew, Ashara in Arabic, which means the 10th in the month of Muharram. Imagine, they tell you we hate the Jews. And so we have a holiday, we celebrate the freedom of the Jews. What are you talking about? You know, I don't know. So I hope, if I answered your question fully, the stories of the Quran are scattered all over. The story of Muhammad is scattered all over, peace be with him. And we take the stories collectively with their moral implications. Yes, other questions? Don't be shy.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. Other questions? Yes. Be easy on me. Be easy on me. No. Be tough. Yeah, go ahead.
So how would you, especially with all of the misunderstandings that we have going on right now, how would you present to someone who's very anti-Muslim the reality of what it is because of all the misunderstanding? People see it as such a negative religion, but it's really not. So how could we spread the word that it's not without being ostracized?
On your way out, buy my CDs. No, I have CDs that took almost 10 years to produce. And these are frequently asked questions of almost 3,000 questions I put together that I got from across the country. So please buy them, because they are much more details than you heard from me 20,000 times, and you can hear them in your car and take your time. I'm not marketing, maybe I am, I don't know. Anyway, they're on Amazon, they're $70. It's almost $10 here, the whole 7 set. Imagine, $70, $10. Buy them, get them. Give them to your father, to your mother, to your friend. Listen to them. Anyway, I really believe that the best way is to put on the human face of Islam. Visit Muslims in their homes. Get to know Muslims in their shops, in their markets, in their homes, how they interact with their kids, with their spouses. In America, go and do that. You know, there's so many communities around here, Muslim families. And believe me, they will be so welcoming. putting on that human face is important. You get to know who we are, how we think. Well, at the end of the day, we are people who like music. We hate the music, we love music like anyone else. We hate traveling, we love food like everyone else. Get to know us through history. Read about us, read the 1001 inventions. Number 3, visit Muslim countries. Please, go and visit Morocco. You will be shocked of the beauty of Islam, through the culture, the people, the hospitality. Egypt, you know, Iraq, oh no, not Iraq now, no. Not Iraq. Not Egypt now, no. None of the list. You know, Syria, I wish. Syria used to be, unfortunately. But visit Muslim countries where you can travel, meet people one-on-one, invite people over to your home, visit them in their home, and read. Read a book like this, Taking Back Islam, written by, or edited by Michael Wolff and Alexander Kronemer, both of whom live in the area, and have their own documentaries on Islam. How do we talk about Islam as Muslims? We want to take Islam back from the extremists. We want to take Islam back from those who gave Islam a bad name. We want to take Islam back by giving women what is due to women. This book tells you about what is happening in our homes to reclaim our faith. People need to read this kind of book. People need to read a book like this, Islam Denounces Terrorism, where we stand on terrorism. How we use the Quran and Hadith and Sharia to fight terrorism. What's happening in our neighborhoods. Muslim holidays, participate in them. Go to mosques. Basically, put on that human face. At the end of the day, I would say, you cannot change everyone out there. You try your best to engage, to speak, to talk, and wish for the best. I hope I answered your question. It's a tough question. I don't know sometimes other than doing something like this. So thank you, Inas, for making this happen. Thank you, Montgomery College, for making this happen. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here, for being present, for learning. I know exactly what you are doing. Thank you for your work. If you like what I said, go out and talk about it. Put it on your Facebook. My friend, we are a bunch of human beings like everyone else. We procreate like everyone else. We marry like everyone else. We love food like everyone else. We love life like we love. And that's what needs to be known. The extremists do not speak for us. They speak against us. For me, what happened on September 11, and take this from me, my friend, my sister, what happened on September 11 was an attack on me in 2 ways. It was an attack on me as an American. And it was an attack on me as a Muslim, because it was done in the name of my beautiful faith. And therefore I became the victim of both, being American and being a Muslim. How many Americans know of the 10,000 Muslims who serve in the military, in the protection of America? How many people know? How many people know of the thousands of Muslim engineers who contribute to the safety of this country, doctors who contribute to the safety of this country, like everyone else? How many? I don't know if that answered the question. Reach out, build the bridges, do not allow ignorance to lead the way. Believe me, we are all in this together. My friends, let's conclude by saying this. Please buy my CDs on your way out. There's a lot of food, there's a lot of handouts. Take them home, give them to friends. Take my name and my email is on my handouts also. Let's be in touch. Thank you, and may God bless you.